Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today is a brand new build to the channel. It is a Warden bow build called Quiver. Now he is a 1 bar build. Now I know you've seen the Easy Sork for the last 7 years and you've seen the hype in 1 bar setups, basically a 1 bar variant of the Easy Sork on just about every single class all over the world, and people are going nuts for it. Good. It gives you something to use in content, makes things a little bit easier. But some are upset about using the same old sets and constantly using a heavy attack on a lightning staff or else. Well, this is not doing that. This is a bow and it uses light attacks and it works. Equally as effective single target, just as much survivability as any other 1 bar build, and everything is where you need it. So if you want a simple setup for a bow build and you want to play that Robin Hood-esque character, you are more than welcome to do so, and this is how it is done. So first of all, we are going to go into the stats. We'll make things nice and easy, make sure we've got our food on and a buff. That's it, basically. Come on. So we'll go to our character sheet. We are sitting on 13k magicka, 25k max health, and 33k max stamina. That health will actually go up to 27.7k. Most of the time you're in combat, you're going to have that. Now, our recovery for our stamina is actually very high. It's 1148, and the rest of the recovery bonuses are not too bad. You can change your food for that to make it even higher if you want to. Weapon and spell damage is sitting on 4.5k. That will go up in combat, depending on buffs and bonuses in your group. 60% crit chance, which is really good for a single target build. And, of course, in content, if you've got buffs and bonuses from your group, that can go to 66.1. Resistances are staying as they are unless we get a minor buff, because we've got major resolve all the time. So we are on almost 20k spell resistance and just over 19k physical resistance without help from the group. With help from the group, you're going to be sitting on around 22, 23k. And of course, there's sets in the game that can heighten that even more. Basically, there's a 5-piece set that will give the group a resistance bonus. There's a couple of those actually. And there's also Lord Warden. You start stacking those, you're basically a tank. Now, we are sitting on a quite low pen to start with, obviously, because we're mostly medium, but that is not the end of the world because we do have some passives and bonuses that we can take advantage of, and of course, you have to consider that inside a fight, you can get buffs and bonuses from your group as well. So that's not the end of the world, just a good starting point for now. 64 points into max stamina, all these buffs and bonuses that we're not going to go into, and of course, we've got the Thief Munda's Stone. Max health, max stamina food. That is a bug. It does say 0-0. It's not. It's just over 5k health, just under 5k stamina. You can, of course, use other food, like I said, if you prefer, which you could use the Arteum Takeaway Broth. It is expensive, but it does last a long time, and it will give you less health and less stamina, but it will give you more health recovery and more stamina recovery. So in situations where you can't quite figure out how to keep your stamina at a decent level, if you can't really heavy attack too much because you're maybe stunned a lot and stuck in situations where you're CCing all the time, the extra recovery can help. Now, we were going to go to the skills first of all, but they're going to be a short part of the video. So we're going to go on to the gear. Now, for the higher single target version of the build, you are going to need to go into normal trials. In fact, you go into cloud rest. However, you don't have to. If you go into normal, you'll get the regular version of this set. The regular version doesn't have the 5-piece bonus with the 1,000, almost 100 extra stamina. That's the only difference. The actual damage for the proc and the other stats are exactly the same. So if you don't have perfected, it's not the end of the world. You don't have to have that. Just get the regular, normal Reliquin. The proc is the same. Every light or heavy attack that you do will stack wind once a second. You do that up to 10 times and you've got the maximum stacks. If you maintain your light and heavy attacks, which you should be doing at least once every 5 seconds, so it's quite forgiving in that respect, then of course you'll maintain this constant damage over time on target. You stop light attacking or heavy attacking for 5 seconds or more, it's gone. So if you can't use this, you got 2 options: practice or take it off and use something more effective for you. But that is also tying in with our passives and bonuses for our bow skill line, so it would pay you to learn to heavy attack at least, or light attack at least once every 5 seconds, although technically you want to do it every 1. That we'll get into more in the rotation. It's not important for now. But basically you want this on the body. So all pieces on the body, all medium, all stamina, all divines if you can. But if you don't have this, you don't think you can get it, you don't want to go into trials, you do not have to. You could go into Falkreath Hold and grab yourself Pillar of Nirn. You could go into Hrothgar or on the market and grab yourself some Briarheart. That will give you some more survival as well as a damage boost flat out. There's lots and lots of different sets in the game that will be absolutely fine for this build, but will be applied differently. So use what will work for you if you don't have access to this or if you can't maintain it. And you need to be honest with yourself when it comes to Reliquin. Lots of people like to use it on the dummy, but they can't effectively use it in content. So they'll sit there and show you a really, really fun screenshot of their DPS, but when they go into a fight, Reliquin's never up more than 3 stacks. If you're one of those people, again, you've got 2 options, apart from being honest with yourself. Practice or take it off. Because if it's not stacking up and staying up, there's no point in using it. It's ineffective. Now, the other options, again, you've got so many options in the game when it comes to medium sets. You're not restricted in that respect, but you can use some very, very effective ones. Pillar of Nirn is still very, very effective. It's got really nice damage over time on it, and it's acquirable in normal Falkreath Hold. But if you don't want to do DLC stuff, of course, you can grab Briarheart off the market. Venomous Smite from the Overland as well. Again, although they're attached to DLCs and chapters, you can get them off the market off of other players. Failing that, whatever works for you. There is no you must do this, but this is one of the most effective single target variants for this particular build. Now, the other one, you're not going to see this one coming usually, is Red Mountain. Believe it or not, this was very, very powerful. Now, while you could stack Rally and Pillar like everybody else, yes, I know, it's actually on the Toxicity build, and it has been for a couple of years now. You don't need to. Pillar of Nirn was quite nice alongside Rally, but the downside was this is built for single target hits, and this is exactly what it does. The flame damage is actually a single target hit, so that is boosted quite heavily by our champion points, not to mention the way we're set up. Pillar of Nirn was very nice and almost equal, in fact, but the downside is it's a damage over time and it has a higher timer, so it has 10 seconds instead of 8. With this being quite a fast-paced build, you are going to possibly go from one target to the next, to the next, to the next quite quickly. You could argue 2 seconds isn't much, but it is 20% of a difference overall, so you can actually have a much faster rate of fire to this than you can of Pillar of Nirn, and in content I found this to be more useful. Again, it is your choice, single target wise. However, the damage output was exactly the same. Just a couple of lucky crits here and there from either one of the sets, and you can still get 90k on that rigged target dummy all day long with this setup, as long as you weave your light attacks effectively. So, Red Mountain on the bow, the helmet, and of course 2 jewelry pieces. Then the shoulder, you want to go Slime Core, why not? Make sure it's a light one so you've got the extra penetration bonuses from your passives. And of course we're using the One Ring. The Oaken Soul Ring is stupidly awesome. It's not overpowered. The reason it's built this way is because you are sacrificing 5 whole skills and an ultimate. You have to be quite harsh in your decisions when making a 1-bar build as to which skills you're going to take and which ones you're going to completely ignore. And for that, you benefit from all these buffs and bonuses. Now, you can get a lot of these buffs and bonuses in content. So you can get them from your group, you can get them from potions, you can get them from other sources regardless. But you've got them for you all the time. So if someone dies and they're buffing you, well, they're not buffing you anymore. Good job, you still got them. If someone is not bringing buffs and bonuses, then you're covered. And of course, it also helps to have some that are missing, because sometimes there are. Sometimes you've got loads and loads of buffs, sometimes a couple missing, and you've just plugged that gap. So you can play on your own, you can play in a group, you can play in a trial, you can play in any scenario, and always have those present for you. Not to mention it's got constant power. So if you do ever have to heavy attack at any point just to get back some resources, you won't lack the DPS gap between the lights and heavies because you've got that extra boost. Now, just before we finish up there, we've got weapon and spell damage on every single piece of jewelry with Bloodthirsty on all. Bloodthirsty was changed. So before it would give you about 90 weapon and spell damage at about 90% health, and then it would escalate and end up being 350 per piece at the end, or at low health on the target. That was dramatically changed, which is why a lot of sets, including Sergeant actually, feel stronger than they were before. Because before, they wouldn't really peak till they're about 10%, maybe 15% or so of the target's health. But now they peak much sooner. So at 90% health now, instead of getting 90 weapon and spell damage, you actually get 270. So your consistent DPS is more balanced over time, but it ramps up much, much faster. So 270 at 90%, and then gradually going up to 350. You want that on all of these. Infused, due to this change, is more useful for utility or everyday glyphs that aren't weapon and spell damage, because they have less weapon and spell damage bonus to your overall setup versus this. So if you are going for raw DPS, you want to go bloodthirsty. If you're going for anything else, Infused can start playing a role there. Flame damage on the weapon, because that outperformed weapon and spell damage on this by a fairly large amount, about 5 or 6k DPS, depending on the player. And also you want stamina on everything with all divines. Now, skills. These are going to be nice and simple. We don't technically need this for brutality, but we'll take it anyway because it does have a nice bonus on it. So Animal Companions, 4th ability to unlock, starts off as Betty Netch, morph it to Bull Netch. This, over 25 seconds, will constantly give you stamina back. It does have brutality and sorcery. We don't need those, we've already got them. But you want to keep up this recovery bonus. It's actually very, very nice. Not to mention, of course, it's free. Doesn't cost you anything. And every 5 seconds, it will remove a negative effect, including the initial cast. So if you get cleansed by somebody else, great. But if not, and there's no one there to do it, and you need to cleanse in any mechanic that you're in that can be, this is for free. Game changer there. Game breaker. Yeah, why not? Now, next up is Deep Fissure. Same skill line. Starts off as Scorch, morph it to Deep Fissure. Now, you can use the other morph if you prefer, but that's going to really, really affect your sustainability, and it's not going to give you as much damage. And also, actually applies a debuff. 2 debuffs, in fact. Both physical and spell resistance debuffs for major breach and minor breach, which both stack. So this lasts 9 seconds, the debuff lasts 10, but each time this fires, it does 2 hits. You have to wait for 3 seconds for the first one, wait for 6 seconds for the next one. Do not fire this over top of itself. You must let it finish, otherwise you won't get the final burst. It's very handy, does a lot of damage for the single target that you are hitting, but also contributes to AoE as well. So you've got a good balanced skill there that does basically everything. Again, you must be aiming at the target because it aims in front of you as it goes off. Because if you press the button in one direction and turn in another direction, you'll miss. Make sure you maintain your lock on that target. I mean your camera lock, not a physical lock. So this is going to be using your rotation a lot. It's going to ease up on your stamina usage because it costs magicka, but don't spam it. You won't benefit from it. You've got to let it run out. Next up is Arctic Blast. I know, a close quarter skill for a ranged build. Why would you do that? So, starts off as Arctic Wind, morph it to Arctic Blast. This will heal you instantly. And regardless of buffs and bonuses in your group, this will easily give you a heal of around 20k if you crit it. And you're likely to, because your crit chance is very high. This is a stupidly powerful magicka cost and heal. Now, bear in mind, we are not using magic very often. We're only casting this once every 10 seconds. With around 400, 500 recovery, not including buffs and bonuses from your group, that will actually push us to basically use this for free. We'll never run out. And if you need to, you've got the extra resources now to heal. But at the same time, this does do damage in area of effect every 2 seconds. It will do frost damage, and it has a really high chance to chill the enemy as well. Now, while you are at range, you will not reach, but you can use the heal. But I would encourage you to keep this active as much as possible, or when you need to, if enemies get close to you. Because if they do get close to you, you've got an oh shit button attached to this. It will stun the enemies for 3 seconds upon activation. So if you go close to stuff and it's trying to hit you, you can stun it. Not only that, we do have passives for our bow skills, which will enhance our damage at range. If we have to stack and burn and get close to the enemy, technically we would lose damage, wouldn't we? Well, now this can reach in those situations, and it plugs the gap for the damage you just lost and puts it exactly where it was before. Tried and tested, long range, higher bow damage, close range, this will actually hit. Both numbers were the same. So you're not at a loss, for once, on a bow build for going close. Next up is our main spammable. This is the bread and butter of the build. This is Lethal Arrow. Starts off as Snipe, morph it to Lethal Arrow because this one has an extra effect on it. The other one does apply minor breach. You don't need that. You've got it in your shulks. And this one does actually have an extra bit of damage added to it. So it will do poison damage instead of physical. So it won't actually apply the minor breach that comes with the skill, but it also won't apply minor breach from the physical damage status effect. Instead, this will guaranteed fire a poison status effect every time you fire it. It does apply Defile, but that's not important for PvE. Essentially, just fire this, fire this, fire this. Will light attack hit, light attack hit, light attack hit. You'll constantly be doing poison damage, and you will constantly be reapplying the poison status. So you've basically got a free dot attached to this. Also, if anyone in the group is using Morag Tongue, then of course you get a lot more damage out of this because poison damage is enhanced on target. Very handy skill. Don't be too confused by the wind up. It is a cast time or channel. Well, actually, it's a cast time, channel is different. But you need to make sure that you time your light attacks correctly. If you try and fire it too soon, it won't go off. If you try and fire it too late, there'll be gaps. That will take some practice. But light attack hit, light attack hit, light attack hit. That will come into play in the rotation shortly. Arrow barrage. Very simple. Put it on the ground, it does damage in area of effect. So you've got some decent area of effect damage here and here. Those two combined, direct and damage over time, pretty handy in all situations. Not to mention, of course, it is a bit weird when it comes to the casting of it. So it's instant. The second you cast it, regardless of what your character's visuals are doing, it is coming. It's already been fired. But it won't actually do damage for the first 2 seconds. It has to actually fire up into the air and then land. So while your animation is not really important because it's already been shot into the air, it does take time to come down. So it does last 10 seconds, but it will only do damage for 8. It will do damage every 1 second. So strictly speaking, you want to refire it every time it gets down to 1, and then you'll have a little bit of overlap, and you shouldn't have any negative downtime for this. It is not too expensive, but if you spam it, it will become expensive. So be careful. You could use the other morph if you wanted to, but it does less damage. It lasts longer, so it's less micromanagey, I guess, but it does less damage. So again, the choice is yours. If you want something that's easier over time, then of course the other morph. If you want more damage, pick this one. Hopefully that made some sense. Wild Guardian, very simple. It's Yogi Bear. This dude is hard as nails. Starts off as Feral Guardian, morph it to Wild Guardian. Now this one will actually apply bleed, which is quite nasty. And also it applies hemorrhage if you're lucky. It's got a really high chance of applying hemorrhage, which gives you another damage over time ability. And of course, it's cheap. Really cheap. It will hit the enemy all the time that you're targeting them. But what you need to do if you want to change targets is apply a heavy attack. Just so you know, pets are controlled by heavy attacks. If you've got 2 targets, you want to hit another one, heavy attack it, it'll change targets. But failing that, it'll hit the first one you hit. Now, once summoned, you can activate it for 75 points only, and it will do a massive whack at the target. But this gets stronger and stronger and stronger the lower the health, starting from 25% health and under. So it can get really high. This particular build itself, with the rigged target dummy buffs and bonuses present, can hit up to like 168, maybe 170k on that hit. It's quite nasty. And again, because it's so cheap, you can use it quite often. If you've got bonuses in your group for minor or major heroism, and you're taking advantage of your animal companion passives, you can fire this really fast. So be very careful not to let it get dead if you are in certain content, but you can use this as much as you like. You can use any other ultimate if you prefer, but I honestly wouldn't leave home without this. The amount of damage it does, the chance for hemorrhage and all that good stuff, it's very, very handy. And you don't have to double bar it because we're only using 1 bar. How good is that? Now, I'm going to go into passives, so you understand how this all kind of lines up, and then we'll go into the rotation and champion points and all that good stuff. So, why have we chosen some of this stuff? Animal companions, very simple. Any pet that ends or dies will heal you. Now, every time I cast this, it ends. Every time I cast a Shulks, it ends. After it has fired. 6 seconds, 3, 2, 1, fire again. There's a heal. Now, anytime you use an Animal Companion's ability that has finished, or you recast it, so the previous one's finished and you start a new one, that will heal you. That's free. So bear in mind, that's very micromanagey, but that's something that you can benefit from. Also, when you cast an Animal Companion ability while you're in combat, you generate 4 ultimate. You do this once every 8 seconds. Maintain this, or actively use this, and you will keep that up. Increase your magicka and stam recovery by 12% if an animal companion ability is slotted. It is. We're good to go. We've got multiple here. Not a problem. Green balance, of course. These are kind of important, but we're not really actively using any of these skills. If you choose to for your own setup, you can. But generally speaking, we're not. So some of these won't help you. When you heal yourself or an ally under 40% health with the green balance ability, you get major mending. That's not going to be important for us because we're not using them, unless, of course, you choose to. So dump that passive. When you heal an ally with a green balance ability, you get stam or magic back, whichever one is lower at the time, every 1 second. That's not important either. It's lower pool, by the way, not lowest at the time. It's if your stam pool is low, it will do that one. If your mag pool is low, it will do that one by maximum, not by how much you have left, the maximum. Again, not important, dump it. Increase your healing double green balance abilities, dump that. You save yourself 6 points so far, but definitely get this. When you activate a heal on yourself or an ally, you grant the target minor toughness, increasing their max health by 10% for 20 seconds. Now, if you were healing somebody else, they would benefit from this, but we're not. We're just healing us. So any heal, including recasting that, will give me minor toughness. As you can see, my health bar just changed. It went from 25k to 27k. So you are tanky as hell as a DPS, especially a ranged agile one. Very handy. Make sure you get that passive as soon as possible. You will need to unlock this skill line and take a couple abilities with you while you're leveling in order to unlock the passives. But once you've got it, you can just dump the rest anyway. Winter's Embrace is actually important. We are using Arctic Blast. It is our active heal, and it does damage over time if you're close to something. Now, this will increase your chance of applying Chilled with Winter's Embrace abilities by 200%. We've already got a really high chance to apply Chilled already on this skill, and increases the damage of your Chilled status effect by 1214. This also scales off your highest offensive stats. So our weapon and spell damage, whichever one is higher. For us, I mean, they're the same, but technically speaking, we're going towards more physical. So our stamina pool will go towards that as well. If we do chill something, it will hurt. And we are likely to do so if something gets too close or if we have to stack and burn. This will increase your physical and spell resistance by 990 for each ice ability slotted. We have one. We get nearly 1k resistances. This will reduce the effectiveness of snares against you by 15%, so you're bloody fast. And this increases your damage done by 2%, which increases to 12% when wielding an ice staff. We're not using an ice staff, so we take the 2% flat bonus full out. Bow is very simple. This gives you a bonus of up to 12% extra damage the further away you are from the target. Now, this will actually cap at about 20 meters, but the further away, the more damage you do with your bow. So, this actually affects your light attacks, your heavy attacks, your lethal arrow, and your arrow barrage. So, being ranged would make sense. But this isn't going to reach. So, that won't do any damage. That bonus there will enhance these. However, if you are close, you won't benefit fully from this passive. So, you lose damage technically. But because you're now close, this can now start doing damage. It's all swings and roundabouts, but wherever you are in the room, whether you are close or far, your damage will be the same because of this contributing factor. This will increase your crit chance for having a bow. This will reduce the stamina cost of bow abilities, which you will need because obviously you're going to have to sustain your bar. Dealing damage with a light or heavy attack increases your bow damage by 5% for 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. That doesn't mean stack to 5 times and disappear after 5. That means once every 5 seconds, if you light attack or heavy attack, you will increase that bonus. Once every 5 seconds, if a light or heavy attack continues, you will maintain the bonus. So you can end up with a 25% bonus to all of your bow damage all of the time if you maintain lights and heavies. And at the same time, if you maintain lights and heavies, you'll keep up Reliquin if you are using it. So that pays for itself. If you learn how to light attack weave or heavy attack weave or whatever it is you're doing, and you can consistently keep that up, even in mechanics, your bow damage will always be up. Your Reliquin stacks will always be up. That is crucial. If you want help with that, there is a video on my channel in the How to Get Good series teaching you about lights and heavy attacks and how to make them perfectly timed so that you won't actually mess that up, especially heavies. Major Expedition if you dodge roll, and don't dodge roll too often. Doesn't say that there, but that's a base game mechanic. If you dodge roll too close to a previous dodge roll, it will cost you more on the next one. So while this gives you a bonus for 4 seconds, take advantage of the full thing, unless you really have to dodge again. Now we've got medium armor and light armor. So most of it is medium. We've got 1 piece light just for the penetration bonus. I'll show you where that is right here. This is obviously going to benefit you in other ways as well, but you can read through these in your own time. The most important ones are things like reduction to snare, sprint increase, magical recovery, and reduction to magical cost. Those ones obviously affect your shulks because you can use it more often. And your heal, obviously, as well. Now, essentially, what you really need it for at the end is this, concentration. This will give you extra physical and spell penetration towards your target's resistances, which, again, with buffs and bonuses from your group, will help you hit cap. The 1 piece is really, really helpful. No pieces at all becomes a little bit more difficult. Not impossible, but just a bit more difficult. Medium bonuses, you can read through those in your own time. They do benefit you for your agility. Just bear in mind, light armor gives you flat bonuses and negatives. Heavy armor gives you flat bonuses and negatives. Medium armor gives you bonuses for you being active. You can't just stand there and take it. You need to move or do something in order for these to take effect. But we have 6 pieces of medium on, so we've got 12% increase to critical damage and healing done. So 12% from the Animal Companion skill line, 12% from here. We're sitting on 24% crit damage bonus before we even start. We do not need that in the champion points. We are good. This will give you increased recovery and reduction to cost for stam abilities. This will improve your sneaking and reduce your detection radius. This will increase your weapon and spell damage for each piece worn by 12% as well. So nice flat weapon and spell damage, nice flat crit damage, and we've got really good crit chance as well with our sets. And this increases your movement speed and reduces the cost of dodge roll. You got to move around a lot. You've got to stay out of trouble. This is how you survive. We have no heavy armor pieces, so ignore that. We are not using any Fighters Guild stuff, so ignore that. No Mages Guild, none of this stuff. Undaunted is important, however. Activating synergy gives you resources back. That speaks for itself. Take the bloody synergies. And this increases your health, stamina, and magicka by 2% across the board for different types of armor worn. I don't mean different sets, I mean different weights. We are wearing 1 light, that's weight number 1, 6 medium, that's weight number 2. We are an orc, surprisingly. There is no rule to what race you want to be, or can be. No rule. Pick whatever you bloody like. Every single race in the game is going to be able to use this build. None of them are outside of the possibilities. You will just get different bonuses. So if you're using a Breton, you won't have the stamina bonus, so you'll have the magical bonus, which will give you a bigger bar, you can heal more often, but of course your damage might suffer a little bit. But then you've got resistances and recovery, so that can also work in your favor. Maybe you're really, really squishy and the damage amount isn't the issue, your survival is. That could work out for you, which makes it better. Whereas other people might want more recovery, so they could use a wood elf. They might want more pen, so the wood elf comes into play there as well. You might want just resources all day long for health, magic, and stamina, so popping potions as an Argonian works for you. Doesn't matter what you choose for you. However, if you want to get the higher damage output, which is only a small amount, then the orc is actually really, really nice for this if you can sustain it. Now, the benefits you get here are increased max stamina, which is nice. Not the highest one in the game, however. Imperial and Wood Elf both have 2k. This doesn't. 1k max health. Imperial has more. But for doing damage, you are a bit berserker. You do get heals for it. Once every 4 seconds, you will heal. And that can crit too. So that's actually quite beneficial. So we have decent flat damage output or resource amounts alongside a nice health bonus and healing. And then, of course, we've got weapon and spell damage. And we're fast. This is an agile build. This does benefit us. Alchemy, medicinal use, obviously very important. Get this as soon as you can. There's a potion video on my channel about how to level it up nice and quick, and that will help you maintain your buffs and bonuses from your potions all day. Now, champion points. These are not make or break, but if you want to enhance your build in a forward direction rather than backwards, you need to be making some decisions as to where to put your stuff. So technically speaking, you need to unlock this tree here. So put 10 points into this. These yellow or white ones are passives. Every single character in the entire game can get those no matter what. But now you have to make a decision as to which one of these slottables you pick. 4 slottables from each tree are your choice. Everything else is passive. This is what you'll want for this, which is 41 extra weapon and spell damage per rank, up to 205. Slot that, job done, that affects everything. Then you want to go into this tree. Unlock this, max it out when you can, but to start with, you just need 10 points into it, and then you can unlock your Weapons Expert passive. This will increase your light and heavy attack damage by 4% per stage, up to a 20% bonus. Now, I know lots of people assume this is just for heavy attacks. False. It is for lights and heavies, so we benefit from both. In the meantime, we're using direct damage as our main source of DPS, as well as a little bit of AoE, so we want to take advantage of Deadly Aim, and of course, we want to take advantage of Master at Arms. This does affect multiple different abilities, your snipe, your light attacks, your heavy attacks, and your shulks. While they are area of effect in their damage application, they are also considered direct because they're a single hit. Now, this stuff here, again, you can get these in your own time, just fill them up as and when you want to, but to start with, aim for your 4 slottables as soon as possible and get those in there. Red bar's quite simple, no prerequisites for these. Max health, max armor, max recovery. Job done. Now, you want to make sure that you get some points into here, at least 10, just to open up this. Max this out because it gives you a health bonus anyway. And then for doing so, or just getting 10 points in there, you can open up this, which will give you increased resources if you get kills. So every time you get a kill, you'll get 1,500 stamina back. You'll see that I haven't even slotted any of this stuff because that will come as it does. So you will basically level, slot these in when you get them. No panic. Don't worry about being less effective because you haven't got all the champion points you think you need. As long as you've got your slottables, you're good. The rest will take its time, obviously, but once you get there, you get there. There's no looking back, and you'll end up at half champion points, not using the rest of the champion points you ever get anyway. So at 1.5, 1.6 maybe, this build is pretty much done. You don't need 3,600 champion points like the internet tells you. Now, this stuff I haven't even invested in, because none of this affects combat. But there are some that can benefit you in terms of quality of life while you are in situations, I guess. So this one, of course, is very, very handy. Higher quality loot from chests. Why not? Slot that. Then this will increase the duration of food. So less food used, lasts longer. This has a chance of not even using a potion whatsoever. So that's better for your resources as well. Again, none of this is combat heavy. It doesn't affect your combat. And then this one is... wrong one. This one here increases your movement speed while you're out of combat. Again, none of these affect combat. The most influential one towards combat, or the most beneficial one rather for combat, is probably this one, because while it doesn't affect while you're in it, it can make you run from one fight to the next quite quickly. So these are the 4 that I would recommend in content, but again, if you don't even have any of them, it doesn't make or break the game. Rotation. Now this is going to vary because... well, if you did it exactly the same time or all the time, then you might have some mechanics that you have to deal with in terms of block, dodge, break free, all that kind of stuff, and it will skew your rotation. So all you need to do is this. Go into your options. You don't need an add-on for this if you're on PC. And go into combat. Ability timers on. That's it. Now watch carefully. Look at my bar. There's a timer on that. Remember what I said about volley earlier? When it goes down to 1 second, obviously fire it again, because that will fire over top of the last one, and so on. Get down to 1 second or nearly 0, fire it again. Shulks. First fire, 3, 2, 1, pop. Next one will land in 6 seconds time. Do not cast this over top of itself, because you want that pop at the end. So once that's not got a timer on it, use it again. If you're using Polar Wind, you can heal whenever you want and restart that timer. Easy peasy. Now, maintain the Betty Netch, or the Bull Netch. It's got a long timer on it. If you don't see the squid in the room, just activate it. It's free. The rest of the time, you need to maintain that and fire this whenever it is not active. So maintain this, keep it on a timer, and fire this whenever it is not active. The rest of the time, the entire time, all you need to do is light attack and snipe. Light attack and snipe. And just maintain that spammy rotation. Keep this up. Fire this. Keep spamming. When volley's about to run out, whenever that is, regardless of the mechanics, fire it, fire the shulks, off you go again, keep going. That's it. Now, during that, if your bear is ready, replace one of your snipes with a bear hit. And then carry on. Over and over and over. If your dot and your shulk run out, it's not the end of the world. Just reapply them. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Now, obviously, you're not getting a clear gauge of what that can actually do because we're halfway through the fight when it started. But, I mean, you're looking at an average, depending on the player, average of anywhere between 80 to 90k all day long. If you're very good, you'll get 90 to 91, maybe even 92. If you're not so experienced, you should be able to get an easy 80. If not, you're still going to be way over 70 no matter what. And that's pretty much it. All you need to do is maintain snipe and light all day long while keeping up your volley and shulks when they run out. Now, just bear in mind, if you are low on resources, by the way, and you start struggling, instead of going light, snipe over and over, what you can do is you can actually hold heavy attack and just press snipe while it's winding up. And just keep doing that. Just hold on to heavy attack and just keep pressing snipe, and you'll still maintain really good DPS. So it's really not that difficult. And because you've got Empower all the time, that can actually make your rotation a bit simpler to do. So, I mean, it's entirely up to you which one you find more comfortable. Light attack and heavy attack both contribute towards the Hawkeye passive, and they both contribute towards your Reliquin stacks. So you can see all day long, even with flat food, I'm not ever going to run out. I'm not having any trouble doing deeps. And even the 3 million target dummy is actually getting quite slapped with or without buffs and bonuses from the previous one. There's no effort involved at all. So if you are struggling to light weave and you can't get the timing right, just heavy instead. So, now it's time for fashion. We are obviously looking stealthy as hell with our jungle gear on, but we've got a bit of a twist to it. We've got some techie stuff there, obviously because we've got a special bow. So, bit roleplay-esque, but what can you do? This is currently using the Dreadhorn hat, because he looks cool. The, how do you say that? Ifries? Fififi? That one. We're using that chest, that shoulder, the, say R really, really loud with K at the end, and then sneeze, and that's how you pronounce that one, using those gloves. We are using that one again. The belt, medium actually. We're using Yafifi. We're going to call it that actually, just for fun. You've seen the meme. Yafifi's greaves and feet. And we're using the bow of the sneeze set. Again, it's a Dwemer one. Nobody can pronounce it. It's actually quite easy. It's Arcthazand, but whatever. Or Arcthazand. No, it's not easy. It's impossible. You pronounce it. Pronounce it in the chat and see if you can get away with it. Right, that's what you're using there. Anyway, now we need to go on to the colors. Now, these are a little bit skewiff. This one here is, I believe, Pit Demon. It is. Pit Demon's Poison is on the helmet. And we have another brown here on the helmet as well for the horns, which I believe is that one. Now, the rest of it is actually base, apart from the hands and the feet. The feet don't need to be changed because their base color is actually the same as these. So that was just a test. But technically speaking, the green is used on the hands as well, just to kind of camouflage that, and the bow. Now, the bow and the hands are meant to look a bit techie alongside of the forest camouflage, but the colors mostly that come with this are default. So that's quite handy. The helmet and the arms are the only ones you'll really have to change. The rest is all already done. Anyway, people, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you now have a better understanding of how to approach this particular build outside of all the gear and no idea if you went to the gear section first. And hopefully you have fun with it. You can play long range, you can play close up, and you won't be penalized for either play style. There are lots of different options in the game for how you can choose to play. This is just one of them. So, if you're not following or subscribing already, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support outside the channel, there are some links in the info section for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, the website xynodegaming.com, and I think that's it, actually. Google my name. You'll find stuff. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.